There lived a girl named Nene. She was only 15, but she was bigger and stronger than every teenager in the entire village. While other children her age still looked like children, Nene towered over them like a giant. And instead of using her strength for good, she used it to bully everyone around her. Whenever Nene walked through the village, the teenagers scattered. Some hid behind their mothers' huts, some ran into the bushes, and others pretended they didn't see her at all. Everyone knew that if Nene's eyes caught you, she would find a way to torment you. Sometimes she snatched their belongings with her huge hands. Sometimes she pushed them to the ground like they weighed nothing. Other times, she stood over them and called them horrible names, laughing as they cried. No one was safe. Not boys, not girls, not even the timid ones who never offended anybody. The teenagers hated Nene with all their hearts, but they were far too scared to stand up to her. They only talked behind her back, whispering, complaining, dreaming of the day someone will finally teach Nene a lesson. Because everyone knew, if you dare to fight Nene, she will make your life even worse. And Nene? She showed no sign of stopping. In fact, the more they feared her, the worse she became. Her bullying didn't end with the teenagers. She caused trouble everywhere she went. Even in school, her behavior became unbearable. The teachers, tired of the chaos she brought into every lesson, eventually refused to allow her into the classroom. They simply couldn't teach with Nene around. The adults in the village talked about her constantly. She will destroy someone one day, they muttered. This girl's behavior is not ordinary, others said, but no one did anything. Even her parents were terrified of her. They heard the complaints, they knew what she was doing, but instead of correcting her, they stayed quiet, afraid that Nene's anger might finally turn towards them. The teenagers became experts at avoiding Nene. They watched every corner. They listened for her heavy footsteps. They hid behind trees and huts whenever they heard her voice. If they saw her near the stream or walking along a path, they didn't wait, they ran, hearts pounding like drums. Then one afternoon, Nene was bullying a group of teenagers as usual, shoving them around by the roadside. They cried, begged, and tried to escape, but Nene blocked them with her massive frame, enjoying every moment. Just then, an elderly woman walked by, Mamati. Mamati was known across the village for two things, her wisdom and her kindness. She had seen many rains, many harvests, and many generations grow before her eyes. She stopped immediately when she saw Nene terrorizing the children. With steady steps, she walked up to Nene and said softly, "My child, why do you treat your friends this way? Don't you know it is wrong to bully others?" Instead of feeling ashamed, Nene grew angrier. She frowned deeply and said, "What do you know, old woman? Mind your business." A few teenagers gasped. No one ever spoke to Mamati like that. Mamati blinked, surprised, but still calm. She had dealt with difficult children before. Losing her temper wouldn't help. "Nene," she said quietly but firmly, "this path you are walking, it will not end well for you. One day, the same bullying you give others will come back to you. Mark my words." But Nene threw her head back and laughed loudly. "Nothing will happen to me. I do what I want." And with that, she stormed off, leaving Mamati staring after her with sadness in her eyes. Because little did Nene know, those words were not a threat. They were a warning. And the world would make sure she learned her lesson. Nene's arrogance grew like a weed no one could cut. She believed that because she was the biggest and strongest in the whole village, nobody had the right to control her. She began taking anything she wanted. Food from the marketplace, fruit from people's farms, even belongings she saw lying around. She would march boldly through the village, snatching things without greeting or asking, and not a single person dared to stop her. Then one hot afternoon, everything took a darker turn. A group of teenagers had just finished working on the farmlands. Their baskets were filled with fresh vegetables and fruits, the result of hours under the scorching sun. They laughed as they walked, tired but proud. But their laughter died instantly when they saw Nene standing ahead, blocking the road. Her hands on her waist, her feet planted firmly, a sinister grin slowly spreading across her face. Panic rippled through the group. They knew they were finished. Nene walked towards them, her smile widening. Well, what do we have here?" she sneered. eyeing their baskets. "I think I'll take these off your hands." The teenagers tried to beg, "Please, Nene, we need this food. Please, we worked all day." But Nene didn't care. With one quick, powerful move, she snatched the basket from their hands and marched into the bush. Just like that. No remorse, no shame, no fear. The teenagers were crushed. They had worked so hard, all for Nene to take everything in one greedy sweep. When they returned to the village, their parents were shocked to see them crying. Once again, the village buzzed with frustration and helplessness. "What will we do with this girl? She's becoming a danger to everyone. We cannot live like this." But the adults only talked and talked and talked. Nothing changed. This time around, the teenagers had had enough. Led by a tall, brave guy named Suki, they gathered in secret behind an abandoned hut. Suki clenched his fists. "We need to stop Nene for and for all," he said. "She has bullied us long enough. If the adults won't do anything, then we will. It's time to fight back." The others exchanged nervous glances. "We can't beat her," one girl said. "She's too strong," another said. But Suki shook his head. "We're not fighting her with strength. We'll use our brains." And right there in that quiet corner of the village, the teenagers came up with a plan. A dangerous but clever one. So they decided to do something bold. They would dig a deep pit in the bush, far from the eyes of the adults, and trap Nene inside. It was dangerous, risky, and a little foolish, but they were desperate. With shovels, sticks, and their bare hands, they began to dig. The sun burned their backs, sweat soaked their clothes, but they didn't stop. They remembered every slap, every insult, every stolen belonging, and every tear Nene had caused them. By evening, they had carved out a hole so deep and wide that even Nene couldn't climb out of it. When they were done, they covered the entire pit with palm fronds and dry leaves, hiding it completely so no one, not even Nene, would suspect a thing. Now came the hard part, getting her into it. They gathered around the pit and discussed their plan. To trap Nene, they needed her angry, very angry. Because one thing they knew better than anyone is that Nene never thought when she was mad. So they decided to use her temper against her. On the day of the market, the teenagers hid in the bushes along the path that Nene often used, the one that connected the farmlands to the village square. They crouched low, heartbeats thumping, waiting for Nene to appear. And she did, stomping down the path like a storm in human form. The moment she came close, the teenagers began shouting from the bushes. "Hey, Nene, you're nothing but a big fat pig," one yelled. "And you're so wicked, even the devil will reject you," another shouted. The insults hit Nene like fire. Her face twisted, her jaw tightened, her nostrils flared, her entire body shook with rage. Before she could think, she let out a furious roar and charged toward the voices like a wild animal. She didn't care who they were. She didn't care where they were hiding. All she wanted was to catch them. The teenagers took off running, shouting and laughing loudly on purpose, so she would focus only on them. They sprinted straight toward the pit they had dug, Nene thundering behind them. "Run, run faster," they whispered among themselves. The moment they reached the pit, they leapt over it one by one, landing safely on the other side. But Nene didn't see the pit. She was blinded by pure anger. With a loud, piercing scream, she fell straight into the deep hole. For a moment, everything went quiet. Only Nene's shocked breathing echoed from the darkness. The teenagers gathered around the edge of the pit and stared down at her. Then they exploded with laughter. Their plan had worked. The monster of the village was finally trapped. "So you can be this quiet, eh?" one boy shouted down. "I thought you were too strong to fall," another teased. Nene's cries turned into threats. "When I get out of here, I will deal with all of you. You hear me? I will finish you." But her voice no longer frightened them. They were no longer the powerless children she bullied every day. Not today. "Good luck getting out of there, oh," one of the girls said, waving mockingly. With that, they turned their backs and walked away, leaving Nene alone, trapped deep inside the pit, screaming into a sky
that no longer feared her. The next morning, when Nene's parents realized she was missing, panic rushed through their home. They searched every corner of the village. They asked neighbors, market women, hunters, and even the children playing near the stream, but no one had seen her. 2 days passed, still no sign of Nene. Rumors rolled through the village like wind. Maybe she ran away. No, someone must have taken her away. Or perhaps the spirits have punished her. But the truth was known only to the teenagers. After hiding the secret for 2 days, Suki gathered the teenagers. "We have to tell everyone. We can't leave her there forever," he said. So, they revealed everything. How they dug the pits, how they lured her, how she fell, and how she had been trapped ever since. The other youths were shocked, but they agreed to help on one condition. Nene must promise she will never bully anyone again. Together, they marched into the bush, following the familiar path until they reached the deep pit. When they looked down, they saw Nene sitting at the bottom, weak, dirty, hungry, and trembling. Her once fierce face was now soft with fear. "I promise," Nene cried, her voice cracking. "I'll never bully anyone again. Just please, please get me out of here." Her desperation touched them. With a huge and strong ladder and teamwork, the village youths pulled her out of the pit. When she finally stood on solid ground, she looked nothing like the bully they once feared. Her clothes were torn, her hair messy, but it was her spirit that had changed the most. She stood before them, head bowed, too ashamed to speak. Suki stepped forward. "Nene," he said, voice steady, "you've tormented us for too long. We're not here to embarrass you, but this is your last chance. If you ever bully anyone again, you will face the consequences." Tears filled Nene's eyes. She nodded slowly. Villagers had gathered around by then, whispering among themselves. Some pitied her. Some felt she deserved it. But everyone knew one thing. This was the end of Nene's reign of fear. Her parents rushed to her, embracing her tightly. They were relieved she was alive, and silently grateful she had finally learned a lesson that no one else was strong enough to teach her. Little by little, Nene changed. She no longer walked around with arrogance. She no longer insulted anyone. She no longer chased teenagers or stole their things. At first, the other children didn't trust her. They watched her cautiously from afar. They expected her to snap back into her old ways at any moment. But she didn't. Instead, she began doing something no one ever expected. She started helping. If someone struggled to carry a heavy basket, Nene rushed over to lift it with one hand. If children were fetching water from the stream, she walked beside them and carried the heavy clay pots. She helped old women grind grains. She helped farmers lift their yams. She even helped teachers repair old benches for the school she once disrupted. She used her strength, the same strength that once caused fear, to make life easier for everyone. One afternoon, while walking with Suki in the fields, Nene looked at him with quiet eyes. "Suki," she said softly, "I'm sorry for everything I did. I don't expect forgiveness immediately, but I want you to know I'm trying." Suki gave her a small smile. "It isn't easy to change," he said, "but you're doing the right thing. Just don't stop." The village saw her transformation. They watched her walk, apologize, and use her strength to help with heavy tasks. Slowly, she rebuilt the broken pieces of her reputation, one good deed at a time.